Let's start with a plan, because plan is really important if we want to simulate like we are on a job instead of just doing a peaceful portfolio where your only consideration is does it look beautiful and interesting. Instead, where on a job you mostly are solving a problem, meeting the requirements, and only on top of that it has to be beautiful and interesting. And it's not just harder, it changes how you approach the design, the process, how you manage iterations, and just manage time in general. For this example, I will start in 2D. Even though you can start in 3D with a quick blockout, I still highly advise you to learn 2D. There is a huge chance you will work on outsource where there is just a rule that you have to make a 2D sketch and that's it. I am drawing it in Krita because of two reasons. The first one is that it's free. And the second one is that I don't know Krita that well. And I want to be an example for you that you don't have to have deep knowledge of the 2D software to make good use of it. You just need to know a couple of tools. For now, I'm just trying to do a gun silhouette with some goofy stuff on top of it. Trying to imagine right away where the fault might be. Here I decided to try to make a foldable red dot match the line of the trigger so they would reference each other, making the work a bit more pleasing to look at. Adding a darker value to draw the details on top. Here I decided it could be a cool idea to try transparent grip, since it's gonna both make it look more cyberpunk and also make it look a bit more cheap, like a cheap plastic toy. The next obvious idea I got is to try the triangle cutouts in the magazine since the grip is transparent. It kinda makes sense and makes it even more cyberpunkish. Here, even though I've moved the red dot away from the line of the trigger, they still reference each other because they are parallel and somewhat similar size. I think it's very important for very directional props like guns to have the flow of the design to follow the flow of the direction. And a lot of things going in line, almost perpendicular to the direction of the pistol, in my opinion, stopped the main flow. So I decided to fix it by breaking the line a bit. Here I decided to try to sketch in a different style, since with different styles we concentrate on different things. For example, with line work, it's easier to concentrate on the individual details. Also, this time I decided to start with a gun being folded and then use the transform tool to simulate unfolding it. I remember that in previous Lhasa sketches we had somewhat of a problem forcing the flow through the gun, so here I decided to really concentrate on that problem. Right now our goal is not to come up with sketches to be used as is, but rather to just come up with some interesting ideas that we can later combine. Sometimes I get ideas by just randomly drawing shapes, like here, where the red dot is combined with the slide. The weird shape in the middle is there mostly to redirect flow from the grip to the barrel. I decided to quickly draw a first person view just to see how it would look. And here I decided to change the styles again, now drawing with an oval brush with opacity set to pressure. Now that we got something fresh on the paper, it's time to take a break and concentrate on references. And let's break the references into three distinct groups. The first one is inspirational stuff, where it's not so much to copy the design or details, but rather to have a quality standard that we strive to achieve. The second one is real life stuff that we want to copy or study to make our designs more grounded and believable. Here, for example, I decided to look for injection molded plastic and stamped sheet metal. And the third one is our drawings for this exact project. Now that I got some ideas out and looked enough at the references, I decided to start one sketch from scratch to combine the best one that I have. Also, I got an idea that instead of making it foldable, it might be a good option to make it an assembly out of two parts. The main problem I was trying to solve with that is that if the folding pivot is too obvious, it always breaks the flow. And if it's not too obvious, I think that's a problem of itself, that it's not very clear for the viewer how the gun folds. But of course, I now know that in the end it will be foldable because I've managed to fix some of the things I just talked about. A good way of thinking about the flow right now is to have your design like a racing track for your eye, so it would guide it through the whole model. Okay, I think it's good enough for a quick jump into 3D. I usually start with just duplicated boxes and some cuts made to them to make it just follow the silhouette of the gun. So far, I'm just offsetting and rotating faces while trying to keep it super simple. Okay, I think now it's a good time to screenshot and go back in 2D. The angle of the screenshot here is super important since it allows us to work both on the side silhouette and the first person view together. The line work you see here is objectively counterproductive. It's just I feel myself much more comfortable when I draw this way. Other than the black line and the red for the red dot, All the other values I just color pick from the 3D model itself. I think it's important to have multiple variants on the canvas at the same time, so you will compare them even if you forget to see if you like the direction you are going. Also, I find it to be easier to make big experimental changes when you are working on the extra one you just copied to the side. Here I decided to quickly photobash one of the references to the drawing. Also, personally, I find it to be a good idea to use pasteurization filter on the real photos and renders to make it a bit easier to draw on top of them and integrate them into a 2D drawing. I also rotate the canvas a lot, not only to make the lines easier to draw, but also to move away from the functional understanding of the design and focus more on the pure composition. I think it's a good idea to switch styles of drawing from time to time, so it would help you to focus on different things. Changing styles again, just in case I was limited by the previous ones. Now that I got some ideas out, I will put the best drawings in references and get back to 3D. It is very important to work with very simple shapes at first because every detail you make makes it harder to experiment. As you can see, by keeping it relatively simple, I was able to select half of the grip and just rotate it. In my opinion, good things to concentrate on right now are the plane angle variation and the width variation. So far, our blockout looks good enough and really hard to work on without increasing the complexity. So let's go back to 2D. I think by this time you really noticed how easier and faster it is to make the experiments in 2D compared to 3D, even with a very primitive and easy to work with blockout. Even though the big cuts on the outer shell of the red dot slide look reasonably good, I don't think they fit the cheap theme that we want to achieve, so that's why I decided to move away from it. If you like to only sketch in one specific style, you can switch styles only for quick experiments and then transfer the ideas that you found back to the style you like. Even though I'm drawing stamped steel and it should be the same value since it's the same color facing the same direction, drawing it properly would take much more work. So instead of that, I just decided to Paint it with a slightly darker value to represent the overall shape. But maybe when you made enough experiments and found the shape you like, you can render it properly. I think the line that the width change of the red dot slide creates is very nice if we want to achieve a very directional flow of the weapon. Here, in a very weird way, I try to analyze the flow of the gun and the potential focal points. Even though I've painted some of the details in red color, I don't necessarily want to make them red or even any high contrast color. It's just there to account for the future composition of the focal points. So instead of having one big red detail, this area could have many high contrast small details.